Well. Yeah. Disappointment. That's what I have to say. I am disappointed in the movie that I will be reviewing this week. I am disappointed to see the direction of current modern comic books, and I am pretty sure that Nvidia is very disappointed in themselves because, good lord, their stock price has tanked. We're going to be talking about a lot of disappointing things this week. So for those of you who like to laugh at bad things, I have a feeling that this is going to be the show for you. So, let's go ahead and get right to it. Welcome everyone once again to another episode of On the Grind. Alright, so to begin the week, first, let me mention who is here with me. Of course, our social media manager, Serena.
Hello.
And our editor-in-chief, Mike.
Hello.
So this week is interesting. You know, last time that we recorded an episode, I discussed I discussed Mad Max Fury Road, not Furiosa, which I had a lot of praise for, because front to back, it is a blast of a film, and you know it's always nice to just have a good old fashioned action romp. It's a lot of fun. Furiosa, for those unaware, is a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road. Takes place between Fury Road and Beyond Thunderdome. So Beyond Thunderdome comes first, then this, then Fury Road. And this is a film that, funnily enough, has been in development hell for 10 years now? Well, 9 years, because it came out last year. But it's been in development hell for a while, which is kind of surprising, because Fury Road, from what I remember, was a pretty big hit. I'm actually looking up the money it made. So, Fury Road cost about $185 million, a little bit more than that to make, and then they made $380 million worldwide, which is actually less than I thought. I thought it did a lot better than that. But regardless, the time to make a sequel, a follow-up, or a prequel to Fury Road was probably, 2017. 2018, where you could basically reference it and say, yeah, this is a prequel to Fury Road, and people are gonna be like, Fury Road? I have seen that movie either in theaters or on digital or DVD or something along those lines. At this point, I will watch this one. That was the time when the iron was still hot. Since that time, I can't think of many personalities or just people anywhere that would reference Fury Road or even talk about it outside of Hideo Kojima. Because for those who don't know, Hideo Kojima is a big Mad Max fan.
You really, really, really loved Fury Road, from what I understand.
Oh, yeah. And the thing about it is that because of the time that it has taken, and because, Fury Road was, a lot of people really liked it, but it wasn't as popular as a lot of other films that came out around that time, it just really wasn't, it needed a quicker follow-up. It's sort of like if Metallica had taken 8 years to do And Justice for All after they did Master of Puppets and they had so much success with it. It Justice would have flopped, because you took too long. It's sort of the same thing here, because for those who don't know, again, Furiosa was a flop at the box office. It did not make back the amount of money that the budget had. Nobody was hyped for it. It also featured none of the two marquee actors that were in the previous film. No Tom Hardy, no, who was the other chick? Or who was the... Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron, yeah.
Yeah, no Charlize Theron in it. Nothing. Instead, the people on the poster are Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Anya Taylor-Joy is an incredibly talented actress. She was amazing in The Witch. I liked her in The Northman as well. And Chris Hemsworth is a very talented actor. In fact, I think as an actor, I feel like he's really slept on. Because I'm of the opinion he could do anything. He's not just a meathead, basically. So, the cast is good. But I'm not, convinced of Anya Taylor-Joy as a box office draw yet. I don't really feel like she's got that popularity yet. At least not the popularity to match her talent. So, with this particular film, I feel like that was a big problem going into it. I feel like if they had found a way to recast Charlize Theron in it, it probably would have done better at the box office, because she's a much more popular actress. But regardless, we're starting out with the financial failure. But on top of that, a lot of what I've heard from a lot of people is, before I watch this, is that despite the box office, it's a good movie. And a lot of people from any side of the aisle watched it and said, yeah, it probably deserved more success than it got. I think it was actually a universal sentiment from a lot of people who watched it. And I will say this. I don't agree with that. But I don't think the movie's bad. I think it's actually a good movie. But I think that the problem that... I'm sort of sitting with this in the same way that as a Gundam fan, I sit with Mobile Suit, or After War Gundam X. Now, we don't have Xavier here with us this week, so I can't bounce off him on this. But Mike, have you seen After War Gundam X?
I have not, but...
Okay. So I gotta give a little context then. After War Gundam X is sort of one of those titles that has become a cult hit as time has gone on. But and it's one of those things that you see a bunch of content creators and a bunch of other people going, "Oh, I don't understand why this didn't do that well." But then when you actually look at it with a critical eye, it's actually kind of obvious why it didn't do that well. That's sort of the same thing with Furiosa. Furiosa is an interesting film, because the thing about Fury Road, and I'm going to compare it to Fury Road a lot because that is what I was expecting, was more Fury Road. We're in the same space near Australia. It's a prequel to, and sets up more lore around a lot of the characters and stuff like that we see in Fury Road, yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to bring it up. It has to be. It's relevant. Regardless, the one thing that I noticed from comparing 1 to 2 is Fury Road is a lot of... It's very noisy, but it's noise with a purpose. It's loud, it's bombastic, it is in your face, and it keeps the foot on the gas, which I think is an appropriate, appropriate statement, because appropriate simile. That's the word I'm looking for. It's an appropriate simile because it's a long ass chase scene. The whole fucking movie is. So it needs to keep its pedal on the gas. It needs to be action oriented. It needs to do this and that to to really, you know, get the heart pumping. But in a lot of ways, it was still very much a Mad Max story. Crazy over the top characters. The wasteland is fucking insane. It's basically run by warlords at this point, and Max is once again in a situation that he'd rather not be in. It fits the formula of a Mad Max movie, but for a new generation, which is again awesome. I love Fury Road. Furiosa is weird because it kind of feels like Miller was trying to do an art house film.
Oh no.
Yeah. Which it's a hell of a gamble. It's sort of like, actually, I know what I would compare it to in film. The Exorcist 3. The Exorcist 3 is a great movie. It's an underrated film. But it does have its flaws. And those flaws are the reason why a lot of people don't hold it in the same regard as they do the original. It's a similar thing here. The action in this movie is good. It's very well put together. It is very much a Mad Max story. But there are some elements of it that are stupid. And the fact that they keep dialogue to a minimum in it hurts it. So, because there's a lot of focus on the cinematography, and the cinematography is great. And there's some scenes that are fucking awesome. But there's also some problems. One thing is that the villain of it is played by Chris Hemsworth. I mentioned him earlier. The villain is named Dementus. Dementus, he's inconsistent as a villain. Sometimes he's brilliant. Sometimes he's an idiot. Sometimes the film obviously wants you to take him seriously. Other times the film wants you to think he's Homer Simpson. It is one of the most inconsistent and frustrating villains that I have ever set my eyes on. Because it could have been cool. Here's what I mean by that. How he gets around is a chariot, but instead of horses, it's drawn by 3 Harley Davidsons.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, it's fucking cool. Like, that's an amazing idea. But the structure of his gang kind of comes across as just bikers, and that's it. Like, that's the theme, is just bikers. There's another character that is underneath him called the Octoboss that apparently has, like, some level of authority over people, but it only lasts so long, and he acts like he either does or he does not answer to Dementus. So, like, the organization is really weird. And I really just kind of feel like there's just a substantial inconsistency with Dementus as a character. There's also this thing where they have a negotiation with Immortan Joe. Because the big gimmick is that, of course, Dementus is a warlord. He wants control of everything. He wants control of the Bullet Farm. He wants control of Gastown, which he does get. And he wants control of the Citadel, which, of course, has all the food and the water and all this other shit. So, one thing that I really wish they had done is focused more on him being a conniving bastard. Because in the moments where they focus on how conniving he is, and his ability to put forth a plan, he comes across as a very capable villain. But then you put him across from Immortan Joe, and they make him look like an idiot. And, like, he just is holding the idiot ball in those scenes, or in a few specific scenes. And it was really frustrating to watch, because I liked the idea of a biker, warband leader that he he's always smarter than the person that he's across from, which is not what you would think of in a character that's a biker, you know? And he's just kind of a bogan in a lot of ways. He kind of feels like just another Aussie. But then again, in certain scenes, like, because he seems that way, you as the audience member underestimate him, and when he's able to do some damage, you look at that and you're like, oh fuck, this guy's actually really capable. But again, like, okay, so let me tell you the scene that bothers me. There's a scene between him and Immortan Joe where they negotiate for more food and supplies for Gastown, which they've recently taken over. And the guy who used to run Gastown, they have him captured, and Dementis, Chris Hemsworth's character, is holding back this giant ass spike that has a spring attached to it. Basically, he lets go, that spring-loaded spike is going to go into the dude's fucking head and kill him instantly. Right? Which, by the way, is a kind of intimidating way to hold somebody hostage. And the weird thing about it is two things. First, Dementis is holding the spike himself. That's something that you have an underling do if you're a commander. Second, for some reason, and maybe I missed it, but for some reason, he has, in this scene, a nasal piercing with 2 chains that go to his nipples. And they are attached to the handle of the spike. Meaning if he lets that go at any point, he's going to rip his piercings out, meaning his nipples go bye-bye.
Did he put those there, or was it like a punishment for him?
No, it implies that he put them there. But he'd never worn them before. So I'm like, well, why are they there? Like, it's literally just there to have a moment where he gets his nipples ripped out. And just to make a nipple joke. And I watched this scene and I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? What purpose did this serve aside from a gag? And the whole negotiation it comes across like there's no real sense of who's properly in control. He just, like, the characters from Dementis' side just kind of come across like a bunch of idiots. And it's just basically there to trade Furiosa over to Immortan Joe. And I won't go into a spoiler section on this, but that sort of shit is what bothered me about it, is that there is just a level of inconsistency. And the second thing is that, again, it tried the art house effect a little bit too much, when in reality, more dialogue would have helped this movie quite a bit. There's a romantic interest that Furiosa has in this from another Imperator that I really wish they had let him talk more, because he goes from nothing to just, yeah, I'm going to help you escape. Like, a lot of it is just it's very tell, don't show in some ways. It feels like I needed more, and I feel like what the more I needed might have gotten left on the cutting room floor. They didn't want it to go any longer. But at the same time, there was some stuff in it that's kind of fluff. I didn't really need a bunch of sequences about Furiosa helping to build a war rig. You could have cut some of that out to give us some more character time with her and the other Imperator, and I would have been down. I think that if they had done that, I would have thought that this movie is, like, amazing. But those are the problems. The one thing that I will say, though, is it does a lot of... the other problem. You know how Fury Road has, like, an amazing soundtrack? The one in this movie blends into the furniture. Like, it just doesn't have anything to get the energy going properly. It's still a very dark look at the world. It's a very grimdark story. But without having that sort of pulse-pounding stuff, The problem that you have with it is that the violence of the wasteland has sort of become the norm. So trying to make it to be this thing that is really shocking and horrifying, if you've seen Fury Road, you're not going to be shocked or horrified by any of it. Like in Fury Road, you see people get their rib cages ripped out. You see a dude get his face ripped off. People get blown up, so on and so forth. Like it's a very violent film, and every Mad Max film has something like that. I mean, the fucking boomerang kill in the second Mad Max film comes to mind, where you literally see a bladed boomerang embedded in a dude's fucking skull. So when it comes right down to it, like those are the flaws. Otherwise, though, the acting is otherwise good. You know, when Chris Hemsworth's character is not near Immortan Joe, he comes across as a conniving, thinking, threatening individual. That I wish, again, that we had more dialogue from, because there was clearly a lot more going on under the hood that didn't really get explained, or we didn't get to see, that I would have loved to have seen. I feel like some scenes were a little vestigial and could have been cut for something else that would have, again, aided the story and the characters within it a lot more. For example, I didn't really need, like, since we're coming off of Fury Road, I didn't really need a birthing scene. We know that how Immortan Joe treats his wives. Like, this isn't... It was a very vestigial scene. It's like, come on, we've done this already. Overall, it's just... everything else other than those gripes is good, and it's very enjoyable. You know, again, action is good, the characters can be fun, there's a lot of positive moments to it, the villains do feel properly villainous. Both Immortan Joe and Dementis are absolute bastards. The new guy who plays Immortan Joe is great, because the old actor sadly passed away. But the new guy is very good. He obviously studied the original actor who played him to make sure that he had the same screen presence. He sounds almost exactly like him, too. His ability to shift between that kind of grumbly, growly voice that you always heard from Immortan Joe to one that was more normal sounding was very well done. Like, that's great. Again, Anya Taylor-Joy is very good as Furiosa. She doesn't quite have the same screen presence, though, that Charlize Theron has, which is kind of why I'm lamenting Charlize Theron not being able to do the film. But ultimately, it's a pretty good movie. But I can understand why it didn't do as well as the previous one. So when it comes to, like, Mad Max films, honestly, if you decide to skip this, you're not going to miss a whole lot, which is kind of hilarious because the film doesn't quite justify its own existence. But at the same time, if you sit down and watch it, I don't think you're going to be that disappointed with it. I was disappointed with it because I was going into it with a critic's mindset. I have a feeling people that are, like, much more casual viewers will probably still enjoy it despite the flaws. So, but yeah, if you're gonna watch Mad Max stuff, like, if you skip it, you're not gonna lose a whole lot. Because the thing is like, this is pretty good. Fury Road is great. So,
well,
oh goodness.
Can't they all be bangers, I guess?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Not to mention, I think I just wanted to also see more Tom Hardy as Max Rokitansky as well. He's just so good as the character. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our topics of the week. So, topic 1, Serena. What is going on with the X-Men now?
A lot is going on with the X-Men. Recently there's been some pages circulating the internet from the new From the Ashes era. Basically, X-Men post Krakoa era. This era, the From the Ashes era was supposed to get the X-Men back to basics, and they couldn't even do that right. But first, I wanted to read, not read, but reiterate an article from a place called Popverse that quoted Chris Claremont. Chris Claremont has officially come out and said the X-Men, and by extension all mutants, are not to be pigeonholed as minorities. They are supposed to be allegories for people who have felt outcasted or ostracized by society in some way. So, to all you fake X-Men fans out there, you are fucking wrong. The X-Men are not an allegory for any form of minority group. They're an allegory for outcast and ostracization. So now
You
that
know,
we got that out of the way, let what?
I was gonna say, funnily enough, I feel like
Basically,
that's something that a lot of X-Men writers of old have said and reiterated. Like Stan Lee flat out said, like it's an allegory you can do, but it's also an allegory for several other things, because that wasn't necessarily what he was thinking of when he created the characters. And now we have Claremont saying this. I honestly feel like it's one of those things that people got way too lost in the sauce.
Maybe just a touch, considering that using them as as only a allegory for minorities when there's mutants that can like level cities by accidentally by sneezing. I mean, kind of a bad allegory for a minority right there.
Yeah. You don't want to enter that
yeah, that's
territory of what did this writer mean by this?
yeah. We reiterate our issues with that specific writing trope. Do not have a non-human species or supernatural species as an allegory for any real life group, because 9 times out of 10, that supernatural species is that the prejudice against them is kind of deserved in some way or justified in universe in some way.
But enough about the Drukari.
So
Or the Gene Stealers,
Or the Gene Stealers, yes.
or the fucking Cardassians,
Oh, fuck them.
okay, let's get back to the point.
or the
Yeah, let's get back to the main point.
We're just messing with you, Serena. Go ahead.
So yeah, so there's a pages from the Ashes era that's about Cyclops talking to a government agent by the name of Luna. Oh my god, Ludovixt. Ludovixt. I'm just gonna call him Lude because
Luzik.
I ain't pronouncing all that. Ludwig. Thank you. I'm an English major. I'm a writer. Damn it.
terrible.
Basically, and to make a long story short, Cyclops just out of nowhere threatened this man. Now, keep in mind, from the context I've gathered, the X Men broke into Grimalkin, which is a heavy duty mutant prison. He was trying. Beast and his friends got captured in this mutant prison, and he's trying to break them out. But the problem is, the government agent Ludovix has a immediate problem with that because you're trying to break some dangerous people out of fucking prison. You didn't bother to come request any answers from the government. You didn't bother to try to clear their name in any other peaceful method. You decide, you know what, I'm a fucking mutant. I need to rescue my people, so I'm just gonna go through that go to this prison, whether you want me to or not. And here comes Scott immediately going full fucking Magneto Jr. talking about I gotta save. What was it? What was the fucking? What did he say? Remember you? Where did he says my species? Oh, there you go. No, I'm fighting for a place in the world for my species. Motherfucker, you're human. You have a genetic mutation. What the fuck you mean, my species?
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's a Magneto line. Because the whole Homo
And this
superior
is the
thing.
problem.
Oh, go ahead, Serena.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, they've been right. This is the problem with Scott, aka Cyclops, for the past decade now. They've been writing him as Magneto Jr., and that's not who Scott is.
I remember.
What are you gonna say, Micah?
Well, I was gonna drop a little lore for people who don't know. So specifically, like the whole thing of my species, it was never the X-Men who ever thought that they always said they were human. It was Magneto who pushed the idea of a concept called Homo superior, that that mutants are effectively a separate species. They're the next step in human evolution. Da 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 da. Now, as time has gone on, like there have been like arcs that have flat out said that no, you are very much human. The whole thing with my species, it's one of those things where it's like you're not the Kree, you're not Skrulls, you're not one of the several races that make up the Shi'ar Empire. Like so saying that is so strange to me. Second thing is that because the pages that you showed that they're like threatening the government. Now, I am all
Yes.
the
Now, keep in mind, Scott. To go into further, Scott basically is telling the government agent, if you try and kill me, I'm going to send the fucking juggernaut on the White House. I'm going to have Zorn take off his mask and basically have the black star that is his head consume the entire fucking country. Oh, and by the way, my wife, who is currently the Phoenix right now, is going to come for that ass.
yeah,
So
which
unless you
is
want to deal with the Dark Saga Part 2, you better not kill me.
yeah, that is terroristic threats. Cuz here's the thing. The US government in Marvel has notoriously been corrupt. There's a reason that Captain America has actually gone up against the US government more than once. It's why he worked closer with Shield than the actual federal government. Because for those who don't know, Shield is a United Nations thing in Marvel. Because oddly enough, the United Nations is a lot more competent in Marvel universe than it is in real life. But that's a whole other political thing. Point being, like the U.S. government in Marvel was actually infiltrated by the Red Skull more than once. In fact, one of my favorite Marvel stories of all time, which is called Red Zone, written by Jeff Johns. Go read it; it's an amazing story. It was the last great Avengers story before Brian Michael Bendis ruined everything, and then Jonathan Hickman had to come along and fix everything for it to get ruined again. But regardless, Red Zone is a story where the Red Skull becomes the Secretary of Defense. Now he's under an alias, but just the idea that the Red Skull became the Secretary of Defense is fucking horrifying. So, I personally, and of course they turned a blind eye to a lot of oppression against mutants historically throughout everything. Because I think the common theme with the U.S. government in Marvel is that the right hand very rarely knows what the left hand is doing. So I'm all for Cyclops telling a government agent, if you try to do us dirty or you try to harm my people, the people under my protection, then we're going to have a problem. I don't have a problem with him saying that. Being a fucking terrorist, though, the idea of putting Kane Marco in front of the White House, that's a villain thing. That's a horrifying thought.
Or sending the Dark Phoenix.
Yeah,
The
it's
literal planet destroying cosmic firebird.
yeah, because here's the thing about that. All of these scenarios that Serena mentioned are ones where a significant civilian population could be very badly hurt if not killed. Because let's say you put the Juggernaut in Washington D.C., you're gonna have to send the Hulk in to stop him. You're gonna have to. That's the one dude who can do it, and that's gonna mean there's gonna be a lot of collateral damage and people can get really really hurt. You send out the Phoenix, well then you gotta get Thor involved, meaning that there's gonna be a big fight and there's gonna be a lot of collateral damage. Like these are all scenarios where there is no way that you can spin this as what Scott is doing is heroic. If he did something else like, if I find this, well, I've got friends in the government too, and said like, well, I know this senator, or I'm friends with the Secretary of Defense, or all I have to do is call Steve Rogers. Something like that would ring a lot more heroic because it's Scott thinking ahead, which is, by the way, was always his leadership style. The thing about Scott, he for the longest time he was the second best leader of a team in Marvel because you're never beating Captain America. It's impossible. Steve just has much more time doing it. But Scott was always a great he was always a great thinker and a great planner. He wasn't quite as good on the fly as Steve is. That's the one thing that was like the big difference maker. Because there's a lot of situations where the X-Men would come in with a plan, but they were just hilariously outgunned. And oftentimes Captain America doesn't have that problem. Granted, it helps for one of your closest friends to be a fucking god of thunder, but that's a whole thing. But if you showed that you have something that you can use to to make it sort of like a deterrent, or something that you could leverage against this corrupt person to bring them into the light, and you could there's so many heroic ways to do that, and just the idea that's like, like you get to this point, you have to keep in mind, or you could just do a reminder of like how many friends they have. It's like, we're friends with the Fantastic Four. We're friends with Spider-Man. We're friends with Iron Man and many of the Avengers. There are X-Men that have served in the Avengers.
I don't think the Avengers would be friends with them right now.
Well, that's the
I don't
problem.
think the Fantastic Four wants to associate.
Well, and that's the problem
with the X-Men right now after they try to kidnap his son.
Oh yeah, they've effectively turned the X-Men into domestic terrorists, and they've ruined one of the greatest super teams of all time for a really bad allegory.
Like, the current run is completely justified to send as many Sentinels at these fuckers as you can manufacture. Right? That's you. The U.S. does not.
This is coming off an event. This is coming off an event where the X-Men literally spend several issues murdering humans in like damn near Mortal Kombat-esque ways. Let's not talk about the fact that the fucking Catholic Kurt Wagner was teleporting motherfuckers into space, or Kitty Pryde performing fatalities with her phase ability, like phasing through dudes' hearts in her hand, cutting off people's heads and shit.
So yeah, I don't know if they meant to do this, but yes, they sincerely deserve literally every Sentinel that humanity can like muster and send against them in this current run. There's no going back from I'm gonna be sending I'm just gonna put like the most dangerous man on the planet in front of the White House, and I'm gonna bring down a literal planet burner just down on you just for what? What exactly? It's this is nuts.
Yeah. Not to mention, this is something from the X-Men the animated series that I really liked. Do you guys remember the episode where Magneto tries to break Beast out of jail?
Yes.
Vaguely, yeah.
I love that episode because Hank looks at Magneto and says, "I'm not coming. I have to have my day in court. I have to go in front of people, and a case must be made and put on the record that allows mutants to have their say in the court system." Because and this is what I loved about the writing of that show is that's so clever because it's true to life. There would have to be something on the books that says that mutants are human, effectively. Like, we are recognizing in this court system that mutants are human and are to be treated as such. But therefore, meaning that they are part and parcel to have every single, constitutional right recognized in the United States of America. Because the fact of the matter is that a lot of the most powerful mutants live in the United States. So it would make sense for that to be a thing. And now we're doing the opposite of that, And it's just so sad to see, because I was such a big X-Men fan as a kid, but to see them basically become the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants is sad. And I think that leads into the next topic we wanted to talk about today, because this is a problem that's not just with the X-Men. Like, this is... We've been... All of us here have been talking collectively about comic books and the downward spiral that they've been on for the better part of, 8 years. And things have not gotten better. If anything, they've gotten worse.
Let's not talk about the current state of the online comic discourse, where people are literally cheering this shit on.
Yeah, and a lot of those people that cheer it on don't actually read it. They just look at these screenshots, and they're the same kind of immoral people that are giving the writers the feedback that the writers want. A problem that was mentioned during the Comicsgate era was, of course, the whole DEI thing, ruling the day, and, a bunch of characters getting their sexuality changed or their race changed or things along those lines. But the other thing that we started to notice was that a lot of writers were not writing for the audience, they were writing for Twitter. And the problem with Twitter is that there's a lot of psychos on Twitter.
Good Lord.
Twitter's not real life.
It really isn't. And Twitter does not pay the bills. Even if you're monetized on Twitter, apparently it takes a lot to make money there. But the fact of the matter is that we have seen from just a morality perspective, characters that are superheroes who are supposed to believe in life, liberty, and property and pursuit of happiness and all these other things, suddenly their morals are flimsy, if not non-existent. Now, I'm not going to talk about necessarily religion-specific things. I'm not if a Jewish if an Orthodox Jew gets mad at Superman for eating a BLT, that's a personal problem. That's something specific to your religion. Same thing if a Muslim person found issue with that. It's the same thing with, because I'm gonna talk about gay Superman for a second. That's not the reason I have an issue with gay Superman. I don't think Jonathan Kent is that great of a character anyway. Brian Michael Bendis had already ruined him, so I had no attachment to him anyway. So it's whatever. But gay Superman, the problem,
he was a cute kid.
Well, and then Bendis ruined him because Bendis. I have to say the thing.
He actually made Damian tolerable.
And that, by the way, is insane.
That's an achievement.
Emerald.
Damian is only intolerable when he's around John.
Pretty much. But anyway, the morality problem is worth mentioning because gay Superboy here, his boyfriend was a fucking terrorist. Tom Taylor, the guy who was writing that book, not only did he make this guy an eco-terrorist, people had actually died because of this kid. Batman points it out to gay Superman, and gay Superman And the way that the book is written is supposed to make you, the reader, think that Batman is in the wrong.
It doesn't really work out.
No, it really
Keep in
doesn't.
mind, he did the same. They did the same. They did the same thing with Tim Drake and his boyfriend. Even though Bruce is very good at like clocking people, and Tim has been around Bruce for like what, a decade, couple of years.
Yeah. And by the way, if Chuck Dixon was writing Tim Drake would have, despite the difficulties, taken the significant other and had them arrested and thrown in jail. And it's the same thing with the actual Superman, Clark Kent. He would never tolerate the idea of being friends with a terrorist or being a paramour to a terrorist. He would defeat them because terrorists are bad guys. It's that simple. But this is the problem.
Like, did your daddy not teach you any of that?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, who the fuck would be a better parent in the world of comic books than Superman? I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, this does not look good on Clark. It does not look good on Clark's record as a parent. Ooh, you fucked up badly, Clark.
Well, it's the writers, man. It's like, the one excuse that I saw all the time was like, oh, well, Bruce Wayne dated Catwoman. Catwoman's not a fucking terrorist. She's not a murderer. She didn't kill people. You know, it's
yeah, she was a thief.
Exactly, she was a jewel thief. So that's first.
That's completely different. If they are pushing.
It's apples and oranges, you know. A better comparison would be like if Supergirl tried to date Bane.
Or Bruce tried to get a relationship with Damien's mom, Talia, despite Talia being the daughter of a fucking terrorist and raping him.
Well, that's the thing, is like, there was always a struggle there, but Bruce was never like, he never like dated Talia. There was never a long-standing thing because it always came to the same thing. She wants him to lead the League of Shadows. He doesn't want to start killing people left and right for a myriad of reasons. Eventually, it's like, no, we're not doing this. Like, the instant that line gets crossed, Jonathan Kent was aware of where the line was. He watched it get crossed and didn't care. And, again, you were supposed to think that Batman was the bad guy for pointing it out. And this is my problem with a lot of this. We see this, we see this with Robin, we see this with the X-Men, we see this with Spider-Man treating Aunt May like garbage for no fucking reason. Like, we see these things, and none of them make any sense. None of them are in a place where they're moral people. And it honestly seems like the more that these superheroes get written by these hack writers, the more, it's not like they're just like edgy like the 90s or anything like that. They're just dumb. They're just not smart people. They're consistently not being written like superheroes. They're being written like either they're completely incompetent or you're trying to turn them into the Punisher. And here's the thing about the Punisher. I like the Punisher. One of my favorite characters ever. Another one of my favorite comic book character of all time is Venom. But Venom's not a hero. He's an anti-hero. He kills people. And Eddie is clinically a crazy person. Like, he has mental illness. You know? He's got a ton of problems. By all rights, the only Eddie Brock is basically a serial killer. The difference is that he kills people that are criminals. You know, and even then he didn't always. Keep in mind, the first person that Venom ever killed was a cop. The Punisher kills a lot of people who are criminals, but he is effectively a serial killer. The difference is that he has a level of morals as to who deserves to die. That, like someone like Ed Kemper or someone like that, isn't going to have those kind of same moral conniptions. Because oddly enough, it is an interesting thing about the psychological profiling of serial killers is that a shocking amount of serial killers will be very moral about one thing specifically. So the fact of the matter is that those characters, Venom and
Why
the
is
Punisher,
that?
they're that's a whole other thing I don't want to get into right now. The overall point is that you can't turn everyone into it, because then nobody really has any actual morality. It's all just, this person has ticked me off, ergo they deserve to die. Because, and this is another problem that I've seen, is that a lot of the writers don't have any morals. You know, like their morals change with the tide. And everything just comes across as just like, all these people are terrible. And there needs to be characters that are moral bastions. There's nothing wrong with having the Punisher, as long as you have a lot of other characters to balance him out, like Captain America, so on and so forth. Same thing with Venom. You know, he is a foil to Spider-Man in more than one way, because Peter Parker is a very moral person. If Peter Parker started fucking killing people tomorrow, then he's just Venom in a different suit. And this is what just frustrates me so much about modern comic book writing. Is like, I had people give me shit when I created the Saint, and I said, no, he's not going to kill people. People actually gave me shit for that. And I'm like, so like, why should I make another Punisher? Like, I don't want to do that. The point is that he's a moral person. And that he's trying to save the soul of Chicago. You don't do that by fucking murdering everyone. And by fucking purge people. What would you like the character to do? Start putting them in the camps?
Right.
Like, that's not the solution. Someone has to stand up for what's right. And there's no superheroes that are doing that right now. And it's fucking annoying. Like, I hate seeing it, because I really feel like it just shows that we have gotten so far away from the foundations that I feel like some of the best writers of all time set for the business, and it's just disgusting to look at. I hate it.
This is why we must invest in indies, because we are trying to restore the status quo.
Well, I also am of the opinion that there needs to be, if you're doing superhero stuff, don't just do the Punisher. Don't just do the characters that fucking kill everybody. You know, don't do a bunch of characters where their only superpower is gun. Like, give us some variation. Tell a story about actual heroes doing heroic things. Because fuck me, dude, like, people are just allergic to it, and it bugs the shit out of me. Because it just tells me that the world's going to shit, you know. And I'd prefer that it not burn itself alive while I'm still living.
Terrible, isn't it?
Very.
Yeah.
Alright. Final topic of the day. Folks, don't bank on AI. How many times do I have to say this? So Nvidia, their stock tanked hard. Mike,
Oh, on a fair
do you
amount.
Mike, do you want to go over the basic two reasons as to why?
Okay, so one of the major reasons that happened recently is that the Chinese released a AI known as DeepSeek. DeepSeek is notable because it is 50 times more efficient than other LLMs such as OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, list goes on. And the reason why it's 50 times efficient is because uh, there was a researcher amongst them that decided to make an AI where you could follow its line of thinking, which ended up somehow making it extraordinarily efficient at thinking. And as a result, you don't need gigantic amounts of graphical RAM uh, and memory and processing power to run these fucking things. And it's open source. OpenAI, on the other hand, recently received a $500 billion investment recently that was supposed to, you know, program around the software constraints and the ideological constraints that OpenAI and ChatGPT has been facing that they cannot get around because of, certain initiatives. And as a result, we of the Chinese being blockaded from being able to import chips, they found the way around with the DeepSeek AI, and it made it 50 times more efficient. And unfortunately, Nvidia has basically been doubling down and doubling down, going in on the graphical RAM and the AI production software for its video cards, and it's not looking good for them because if you can run this DeepSeek AI on something 50 times cheaper, why do you need this $4,700 card to operate in a data center? Now, the other reason, oh goodness, is that well, I don't, I, oh boy, they're faking frames, and it's already kind of outdated. I just seen footage lately of Spider-Man 2 being run on the 5090, and it runs worse than the 4080. That's the two big reasons that come to mind right now, and it's showing that they just double down way too hard on the AI side of things, and it's going to be brutal for the come earnings call pretty soon here. Oy.
Yeah, this was a really stupid gamble by them because the fact of the matter is that frame generation things along those lines are very reliant on software. Now, the 5080 and the 5090 have a good amount of horsepower to them in regards to the memory, but the rest of the card, like, it's not so much, it's not a leap better than the 4080 and the 4090. In fact, it's barely better. Not really worth it. But they were relying on the technology, the software, this AI shit, and frame generation to carry them. And it's not really tech that honestly is something that you can like base your brand on. You need raw horsepower, and it needs to be running well. And it's like, if you're gonna charge me $2,000, which is what the 5090 costs for a video card, you effectively need to be future proofing me for 15 years, not basically selling me a bill of goods that if the AI programming of the fucking the processing or the fucking frame generation isn't working as intended, or is causing massive fucking input delay and other issues, like, wait, how do you expect me to invest in that? Like, at this point, why not just sell the software?
Oh,
So,
it's pretty brutal, honestly.
yeah. That's why I'm switching to AMD graphics cards. Why I would much rather buy a Radeon, because they just want their cards to be beefy as fuck. Same thing with their processors. It's like, we're just going to make them super beefy. And I respect that, man. I respect that a lot, because at the end of the day, like, you're always going to need hardware. It's there's never going to be a point where we can rely purely on software, or that it's going to be able to properly make up the difference, because again, the human element and the physical element are always going to have to be involved.
In my case, when I upgraded my computer, I switched over to AMD. Everything is just, and it's been working great for me. I have a 6750 XT, and it's working pretty good.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm really excited about whenever I'm going to get this new video card, because I have a feeling it's going to blow a lot of stuff out of the water, just because 16 gigabytes of VRAM is overkill right now. So, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so.
Totoso, we fucking a Totoso.
So, alright. Well, I think that's basically us saying all we really needed to say for the week. Oh, goodness. I'm admittedly very worn out, but for those of you listening, I do have good news. The next Gundam Explained video, the scripting and the audio is done and edited and over to my editor Shirt Dude to get done. So for those of you who are looking forward to that, there you go. Plus, for those of you who are Cyberpop fans still looking forward to that book, progress is going very well. I've seen new pages from Manito. They look great. Still waiting to hear back from the editor. Or not the editor, I'm the editor. Hi Micah, are you doing something? No. Clearly my brain is not working. So the editor does need to wake up, but the letterer, which is what I meant to say, we have somebody to do it. I'm waiting to see some work back from them. They're working with Lolly to kind of punch up the dialogue, make it look really good for the comic book panels. And once we get those letters in, we're going to go ahead and update the campaign to let you guys know what's going on with what. And I'm super excited to see about what happens there. Plus, very soon, we're also going to be launching the campaign for Black Rhapsody Book 2. Serena and I got to get together to kind of work on the particulars of that.
Yay!
Yep. And then after that, hopefully we will be able to do the Saint Peregrine crossover, because we'll be able to get these comics that are sitting next to me out the door. Which, by the way, funnily enough, I got accidentally sent another box of Black and White Inglewood Book 2 covers. So don't be surprised if after we send out all the standard stuff, if I sell these to people after that is done. I want to make sure the backers get their versions first. So, but we might do some direct sale after that's done. Or I might make them exclusive to the St. Peregrine campaign for people that want to pick those up. So, with that said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to rate it if you're on a podcasting network and listening there. If you're on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. For Mike and Serena, my name is Micah Curtis, the head of Grindstone Arts. I'm going to go have a nap. You all have yourselves a great rest of your week.
Bye.
frick.
Oh.